It's ladies' night. Hooray!
What have you done to your head, Jos? What have you done to your head? Have a look at your screen. That's it. That's better.
Sorry. Right.
Actually,
so
no, return it to how it was before.
Oh, very funny. Ha 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 ha. So it's great to have the two ladies tonight, who are, of course, Alex Hartley and Kate Cross, and I'm going to play them this. What's that then? What's that, ladies? That is it you playing? Either of you?
Yeah. So that is the start of our podcast. That's our intro to our podcast, and it's Crossy getting a wicket and me bowling a full toss.
Well, whatever you were doing, it's great to have you here. So thank you very much for joining us. And as you can tell, if you weren't aware before, I'm a frustrated DJ and not a very good one because I keep cocking it up. Anyway, welcome to both of you to the world's best cricket club, having here one of the world's best left-arm spinners and one of the world's best pace bowlers in the women's game, as well as a not very good left-arm spinner, Simon Mann, and a very poor seam bowler who can't walk or run anymore, me.
That could be me.
That could be you as well, Norts. Yeah, thank you. And welcome to everybody else here. We've had some new members over the last week or two. This, of course, is in aid of the Professional Cricketers Trust, which is a great charity, actually. And we're doing well. We've got up to nearly $3,000 of fundraising now over the few months. So that's really good. And hopefully, the thing is, it's important, actually, because there's a lot more professional women, girls, players now to support as well. So actually, I'll start with that. You're both professional players. Alex, you signed a contract last Christmas, did you? Sort of around about then, was it?
Yeah. So it was about October time.
Yeah, and it's quite it's a big step for the game, isn't it? 41 professional cricketers now.
Yeah, it is. I think it's sort of a time that's needed to happen. So the only way you could be professional in the past until October was to play cricket for England. So the likes of me that lost my England contract, it was a real blessing in disguise, really, that I can still be a professional cricketer.
And what about you, Kate? Because you have been a little bit in and out of the England side. So have you had to deal with lack of a contract, or have you been contracted all the way through?
Somehow I've been contracted all the way through. So I was one of the first ones to get contracted back in 2014, I think it was. But I say I've been contracted all the way through. There's been times where I've thought that I'm definitely in jeopardy of losing my contract, but we didn't have the domestic contracts to fall back on. And we kind of always said as female players that if James Anderson lost his England contract, I know that's not going to happen, but he goes back to play for Lancashire and he goes and earns good money and can pay his mortgage. If we lost our contracts through England, we're pretty much out of the game. We're going trying to find jobs to do with our university degrees or whatever we can find down our local supermarket or something like that. So it was always quite a stressful time for us. So these, like Al said, these contracts have been a real blessing for us because there's certainly a lot less pressure now on the top and, keeping hold of that England contract.
And how long do they last for? How long is a contract for? Is it different lengths?
Yeah, so my regional contract is only a year. So there's still no stability or guarantee that I'm going to get another contract. And it's sort of the life you live as a professional athlete, really, the uncertainty of what will happen in the future.
The England contracts are similar. They're generally a year, but your Heather Knights and your Tammy Beaumonts are signing 2-year contracts, but that's pretty much, that's all that the length that they go to. So I think moving forward, we've not even been told that they could be 2 years now. I think the next ones that we sign, which is next month, could be want just 1 year.
And so do you think about the future? I mean, you obviously think about the present as well. And from what you were saying, Alex, there, and Kate, that, if you lose your contract, goodness knows what's going to happen. But I mean, if you're a professional men's player, you probably feel, I don't know, it's not always the case, but if you're, solidly embedded in the game, you probably think, I've got a career of about 10, 12 years if I keep producing. But you think down the line, you must have thought this, Yoz, didn't you? Down the line, what am I going to do when I'm 35? I mean, is that something you've already started thinking about? Or, I mean, perhaps that's the reason why the podcast is happening at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's sort of something recently we've both discussed, isn't it? I never thought about the future until I lost my England contract, and now I have a sort of a better perspective of life that I need to have something other than cricket. So that's why I've gone down the commentary route and the punditry route. And we started the podcast to sort of help with that and to give me something to do once I had lost that contract.
I think the biggest difference for me for the guys is that if you've got someone like say Sam Billings as an example, he's going out playing in the IPL, he's probably picked up a PSL contract, he might play a little bit in the Caribbean League, his 100 contract. The money that he earns in a year is more than I will probably earn in my career. And that's the difference between the men and the women at the minute. If I lose my contract, I'm not comfortable enough to just be able to have 6 months or 12 months out of the game or out of work like a male player might. I know it's all relative, and I know that their mortgages will match up to their earnings and whatnot, but that's the big difference at the minute, is that their subsidy for their England contracts, or lack of, is so much greater than anything that we can get from the women's game.
Actually, it's a bit like, I mean, you mentioned me, Simon, there. I mean, it's a bit like what we dealt with. The girls now, what it was like for the men probably in the 80s, where, you got a contract, but the contract ended in September, and you handed in your P45 and your sponsored car and any other perks you'd been given, and you were left to fend for yourself for the winter. And actually, sometimes you were on your 1 year contracts. Uncannily, I had a series of 3-year contracts. I always seem to have a good year in the third year of the contract. Weird, that, isn't it?
Simon, that is smart. That is very, very.
Well, it's slightly embarrassing, really. But I mean, it always seemed to happen. And I don't know, you maybe do get a bit more focus when you're coming to the end of something, and it makes you sort of perform a bit better, maybe. I don't know.
I'll be interested to hear from Alex, actually. You signed you haven't got an England contract at the moment. You signed one for Lancashire. Do they say to you what they expect from you to keep that contract? Are there sort of targets set out, or is it really nebulous?
It's sort of like any other contract, I suppose. It's performance based, and if you play well, you'll get it. But the big thing.
What does playing well mean? I suppose that's the question. Is there targets they set you? I mean, it's so tenuous, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose I'm in a slightly different boat to maybe some of the younger girls that have got a contract, because I've had that England career, and I'm sort of probably still one of the best in the country. So for me, I will probably play until I stop enjoying it, and then I'll retire. But for the next 5 years, I probably know that contract's always going to be there, even if it is 1 year.
Yeah.
But it's funny because it's a full-time job but a part-time wage, which a lot of people don't get. So it has added stress on it as well, so you have to work part-time. But yeah, I mean, I suppose the younger girls, it'll be if they play well and perform well, and they're still one of 5 girls are contracted in each team. If they're in that top 5, they'll get a contract, and if not, somebody else will come and take their place.
And you talk about it being a full-time job. So what does your week comprise? At the moment now, it's beginning to get lighter. It's not really getting warmer, is it? It doesn't feel like it.
No.
I mean, how many times a week are you training? How many times a week are you netting?
So we train Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Wednesday is basically all day.
Is this the 100 team, or this?
This is the regional stuff. So
Okay, yeah.
Northwest Thunder. And on a Monday we train from 3 p.m. till 9 p.m. because the girls obviously that work or don't have a contract have to train in the evening, and the contracted girls can train first. And then a Friday, 7:30 in the morning till midday. So we're split up over those 3 days. Yeah.
Just for anyone that isn't really too sure about the women's structure, so we only used to play county cricket, which was not professional whatsoever. It cost us to play county cricket pretty much because we'd fund ourselves and fund our travel, etc.
No, just a minute. It costs the parents. Well,
Not a
I
29
must have coughed up £2,000 at least for my daughter to play for Middlesex. Anyway, sorry, but if you're a bit older, then yeah.
Yeah, I've got to fend
Thanks.
for myself now. I can't have my money off my mum and dad anymore. But so they've not got rid of the county structure, but they've added another layer to it. So they've got these domestic structures now, which is 8 hub regional teams. So we're not Lancashire anymore, it's the Northwest Thunder. But that will feed into the 100 teams. So the idea is to have those hubs where we have Cumbria, us as Lancashire, and Cheshire as our 3 feeder clubs, and that we kind of pull together to then hopefully provide for the 100 team in the future. So if anyone was just a bit confused, that's now.
Yeah, I mean, it is quite confusing, and counties have sort of slightly been phased out in the women's game, haven't they? Which, I mean, is that a good thing?
Yeah, I think so. I can see how people think it's a negative thing because less people are going to be playing cricket. But honestly, the standard of some county cricket games was really quite embarrassing. And you sort of turned up to a game and rolled somebody out for 30, and you think, well, that's not good enough. It needs to be competitive. So now we've gone from having 30 teams to 8 teams. Each game is going to be competitive.
Yeah, that's good.
So what about the 100? I mean, are you genuinely excited by that? Because it actually is going to provide probably more focus than ever, certainly on the domestic women's game, I should think.
Yeah, I personally am, and I know that can sometimes come across as lip service when you're asking the players about it, because the ECB tell them to say what they want them to say. But from a female cricketer's point of view, like you said, it's opportunity to play more competitive cricket, which is what we've missed. Again, for people who don't really follow the women's game, our county season would consist of 6 50-over games and 6 20-20 fixtures. So we're playing 12 games, and that's our summer. So if you're not playing international cricket, that's pretty much all you've got. So for us, we've always wanted more cricket. And me and Al, we've played a few of the trial games for the 100. And it's a game of cricket, isn't it, Al? It's not really any different. It's shorter, but 20 games don't go the distance anyway, and it felt like another game of cricket. Whoever scored the most runs wins. And I think that's where I get a little bit confused with all the people that are so against it already when they've not even seen the product. I just don't understand how people can comment on it when they've not seen it.
The only thing I would say is standing at fine leg for 10 balls instead of 6 is a bit long. So when you're running from fine leg to fine leg and it's 10 balls, not 6 balls before you see your mates, I'm stood there going, oh, I'm bored now.
You've got less running to do now, though. You only have to go there 10 times instead of 20.
Yeah, nice.
Plenty of time for Yodza to fall asleep as well after that story a few weeks ago when he was playing for Durham, where he actually
I'm afraid so.
In the deep.
Yeah, I was at fine leg to Ian Botham's bowling. He was not a good person to fall asleep to, actually. And I just closed my eyes for one ball because I was so tired from having had no sleep at all. And the ball hit the boundary rope and the fence about a yard away from me, and I hadn't moved.
Now listen, how's the podcast going? I listened to it this morning. I was out on Wimbledon Common with my dog, and I was listening to it, and it's really, really enjoyable. It's a fantastic listen, actually. I was starting to think, hold on a second, I wonder what we should do with our podcast. We've been going for about 3 years. Whether we should do something similar, different, whatever. Whether we should.
Try which way the water goes down the plug hole.
Well, exactly. Yeah,
in Australia and New Zealand and England. Yeah.
Oh, that was not our finest moment, was it?
No, it was actually,
didn't work, did it? It didn't work.
It actually did work because it drew you in because you were listening to it, thinking, "Hold on, how's this going to work? What's this going to sound like?"
Yeah.
And then obviously it didn't work. But actually, one of the things I think we found with podcasting is you experiment, you see what works, you see what doesn't work. You think, "No, that's got to be better," or we do more of that. And over time, it develops. It takes on a life of its own. Anyway, that's me talking about ours. What about yours?
Well,
go on. No, you go.
No, you go. After you.
You.
Just get talking.
It's honestly, it's going so much better than we could have ever expected. And I don't know whether that's because we have this fantastic friendship where we're able to take the mick out of each other, but we're also able to be serious as well. And we do stupid stuff like, does the water actually turn the opposite way down a plug hole? Let's check it out live to thousands of people. Who knows? But we're also in the game. We're relevant. We're athletes, and there isn't any female cricketers that have that and don't have that podcast. So we just thought, why the hell not? We think we're funny. Let's see if we can entertain other people.
Yeah, and I think for me, one of the big things is that I'm obviously Al's best mate, and I see a lot of the stupid things that she does on the daily. And now I've got the opportunity to get it recorded and get actual physical evidence of some of the stuff that she does and says, which is amazing for the podcast because that's pretty much what people tune into. But yeah, like Al said, we kind of started it on a bit of a whim, didn't we? We just kind of thought, well, it was when you lost your contract and you were a bit, you kind of were a bit lost, weren't you? And we just thought, right, a few people have asked us to do it, let's give it a go. But like you said about it developing, it's only really been this series, I think, that we've kind of jumped on any, not success, because I don't think it's a successful podcast yet, but I think a lot of people don't realize that it was us for a year and a half, wasn't it? Just doing it, just working it out, just kind of learning how to record. Our first one was us sat with a phone between us, wasn't it? Just talking to each other for 2 hours, and we didn't know what to do. And we've obviously gradually got it a little bit better and a bit more professional. It's not very professional.
So I think it's good. I agree with Simon. I think it's really good. And how does it work on the kind of production side?
So we've done that ourselves up until the last 5 episodes. And someone just emailed us saying, look, I'm looking to get a bit better at editing podcasts because I'm a music producer, happy to do it for free of charge. So we sort of said, go on then, Richard, it's all yours.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, for a year and a half, like I said, we were just guessing our way through it pretty much, weren't we? And then we kind of got a bit more help and a bit more structure. And we're the cricket podcast that doesn't talk about cricket, or we were until the season that we've just done.
Well, I think more and more podcasts about cricket don't actually talk about cricket, which is why our one does. I think we're the outliers now. We actually do talk about cricket. I think it's good to have a balance of both, isn't it? I really like the two things. You've got some good little sort of punctuation, which is like that segments. So I love that LBW thing. A little bit weird.
Have you
is
got
it actually a segment, or is it just a one-off?
You better explain to people who haven't listened.
Well, there's a little bit weird segment, isn't there?
Yeah. So we were thinking, right, how on earth can we tie this so-called cricket podcast to cricket? And we said, well, why don't we have a section called LBW, which stands for a little bit weird, and people have to email in and tell us things that they do that's slightly strange. So we've had all sorts, from people saying they eat plastic and polyester and sponges, to people saying that they don't like ketchup on their chips. Or honestly, it's just such a bizarre segment that we have, but it works.
Ian Wigston said, Ian's a regular on the World's Best Cricket Club. Yeah, our club. He says the recent social media podcast was excellent. I think that was the one I listened to this morning. Anyway, you addressed the issue of the tweet, the Rory Burns picking up on it, and then the pile-in, and the whole sort of nastiness of social media. One thing I wanted to say tonight was don't feel. I mean, it was a pile-in on you, and it must have been horrible, but it's one of those things. The
rite of passage.
Yeah, Yoza gets it, I get it. And it's a right pain in the arse, and it's some of it is disgusting. But I mean,
let's I'll tell you what, we'll just hear a little bit actually, because if you don't mind me playing it, this is my DJ, sort of antics coming out.
Get on with it.
So this is you, Alex, and obviously Kate, sort of interviewing you in a way, talking about the tweet that you posted, which Rory Burns reacted to, and the England players liked his post, and then that was deleted. And you didn't mind the trolling so much as the ECB sort of giving you a rap on the knuckles. So this is you sort of explaining why you were disappointed in the ECB part of it.
Them just to be like, you've got it wrong. And I just thought, well, hang on a minute. Like, what do the men actually do to support the women? Like, genuinely? Which has been really disappointing. But hey, hopefully things will get better because it has sparked conversation.
I was literally just going to say in response to that, the thing is now people are talking about the stuff that you've highlighted, and you can only hope that from something like this, from the stuff that's been said to you and how you have been, like, you can hear it in your voice, you're very, very flat at the minute, but you just hope that something better comes of it, and maybe a bit of awareness is raised around some of the things that we talk about quite frequently, actually, don't we? We always discuss this kind of stuff, but hopefully now it's kind of been shown to the wider world.
It's just been a really disappointing weekend, and I'm going to cry because I'm going to get really upset.
You're all right, that's fine, you're allowed to cry. maybe we've found the breaking point, guys. You've purposely not spoken about this, have you? You've waited so that we could talk about this because you wanted to do it on your own terms.
Yeah, I just wanted people to hear it from me and not anybody else.
Yeah. And I think, again, that just goes, God, you're going to make me cry. Stop crying. I think this is real. This is the impact that one man or woman in his armchair, hundreds and thousands of miles away from you, can have on you. And it's not just one man, because you've had a torrent of abuse. I think if anything comes of this and people are listening to this, it's just think about what you're saying before you say it, and think about, before you press send, do you need to press send? Do you really need to say that horrible thing to that person?
Have you recovered from that? I mean, you were obviously very upset at the time. Have you got over it now and got a bit of distance? Has helped you out a bit?
Yeah, I think a lot of people said, look, it's a storm in a teacup and it will go away. And it has, it's been a few weeks, and it sparked a lot of conversation behind doors about misogyny in cricket. And yes, it was a bit of a shit time for me, but positive things have come out of it, and that's all I can ask, that things start to change. Things don't happen overnight. I'm not expecting things to, but things will change slowly but surely. And I'd like to say I started that accidentally.
Are you, Kate? I think you're the Simon Man to me, to her.
You better explain this, Yoz.
Well, because I think it sounds to me as if you're the voice of reason, which certainly Simon Mann is, and I'm definitely not. I keep slagging off Gloucestershire every week.
I have to keep him in check a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. And do you see that as your role in a way, Kate?
Not yes and no. I mean, me and Al have got a kind of friendship where one of the main things and one of the main reasons we became such good friends was because I was really struggling with my mental health back in 2016, and Al kind of showed me the fun side of cricket again. And what you see is what you get with Al, and you see a lot of that on social media. And we call her no filter Hartley. Like she's just not got she just doesn't care, I'm digging myself a hole here, but there's just that real pureness about her, and I think that's why a lot of people love her or hate her. And that was something that Al really helped me finding that love for the game again, and reminded me why I played the game. So I've kind of always had that serious side to me, and Al's always had that fun side to her. So I think that's why we work so well for each other, because in those situations where she gets herself in trouble on Twitter by posting a clumsy tweet, we called it a clumsy tweet on the podcast, I'm then the one that says, maybe if you'd have just done this or just said this. But equally, Al's got that side to her that it then forces change, and it forces conversations, and she's not scared to do that. So I think, I don't want to be the boring, serious one, but the people have kind of called us that, haven't they? They've said you're the fun one, and I'm the.
Do you think that? I mean, I know, but you especially, Kate, have played men's cricket. Have you played, Alex? Have you played men's cricket? Yeah. I mean, so you've both played men's cricket. Do you think that women's teams form closer bonds within them than men's teams do?
I'm not sure.
Closer, maybe.
I think you once you're in a team and you're sort of stuck with that. I've stuck with Crossy for the last 10 years because we played for the same team. You naturally become best friends, and you naturally form sort of, not cliques, but I've not played men's professional sport, so I don't know how like Lancashire men are in relation to Lancashire women, because I've obviously never seen that. But I think naturally in the women's game, we do become really good friends. But having said that, Crossy's the only person, or one of the only people I speak to from that England team now, because I didn't like half of them.
Aren't you? I mean, what I'm trying to get at, I suppose, is aren't women a bit? I mean, this may be a gross generalisation, and I apologise, but I'm just. Are women better just at expressing themselves to each other? That's all, really, and therefore you find out more about what each other feels.
I know what you're getting at, and I think there's certainly an element of emotion that comes with female sport that a lot of our coaches, so like Mark Robinson, when he came into the squad and when he was our head coach, he quickly realised that a female athlete will remember exactly how you made her feel. And that might have been 18 months ago, but she will remember exactly how you made her feel. And with the lads, from what Robbo said, it was kind of like a brush off comment, or something would get said and it wouldn't ever get brought up again. But girls, and
Yeah.
that's not just sports. I think that's in life in general. Women remember how you made to feel, and that there is that emotional side to it, I think. But I'm just trying to like compare it to the groups of friends that I made from playing men's cricket, playing down at Haywood, and the dressing room that we had then when they were at their best were some of the best dressing rooms I've been part of.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think you're obviously thrown together more in an elite environment because of your common goal, and that is playing for England or playing for Lancashire, whatever it is. But I think we're a unique generation as well in that we've got the professionalism, so we're getting paid to do it, but we're also the generation that played cricket for the love of the game. We never played with the intention to have it as a career path, because it wasn't when I was a kid. You know, you couldn't be a professional cricketer or female cricketer at that point. So I think the next 5-10 years will be an interesting one for the women's game, because you're going to get a little bit more of the ambition to be, you know, to be making money from the game or to be getting fame from the game. Not that you can be as famous as a female cricketer, but you know what I'm saying. There's a bit more to it now. There's more dimensions to it. So I do think it's a bit different. And like I said, some of the coaches that we've had have kind of expressed that to us. But I think it's very similar. I think you've got competitive characters in dressing rooms, and you know, ultimately you're playing cricket because you love the game, and that kind of remains the same all the way through to international level.
Shall I just play a couple of? Let's just, before we get in too deep here, let's just play a couple of clips of your wickets. I dug around. So this is a couple of yours, Alex, and one of yours, Kate. I was trying to find the best quality more than, you know, numbers really. So here's a little bit. Let's have a watch, and you know, doesn't last long.
Oh, it's gone straight to her, and a good catch, a really good catch from Laura Raj. Yeah! Completely done in the flight onto middle stump.
I slowed this down actually just to admire it. So we'll go back to that in a minute.
It's a terrible shot.
It was a terrible shot, but it was a good ball. And this is your wicket. I love the approach and good bit of outswing there. So just give us a bit of a background, Alex, to, you know, how you became a left arm spinner.
Well, the brutal honesty is I was a seamer, and my first ever game for Lancashire, I bowled 12 wides, and the coach said, "You ain't ever playing again unless you do something different." And he said, "Why don't you try spin?" And it was a real challenge, and I had to work really hard, and I loved the challenges, and I love the challenge of stuff. So I was constantly like bowling into a bin in the back garden, and just fell in love with the fact that you can sort of bowl a bit slower and sort of like get people out that way.
This is beautiful. I mean, this is a classic, you know, completely defeated the batsman in the flight, a little bit of spin. I noticed you bowl pretty close to the stumps actually as well, which is good, because a lot of left arm spinners would be very wide. You know, we had Jack Leach on this show, also with Sophie Eccleston, and Jack said, and here's a little sort of gold star for the men, Jack said, "Sophie's got a better action than me."
Sophie Eccleston, she's #1 in the world for a reason. She's
really good.
Fantastic action, yeah.
She plays a lot of men's cricket as well, so I reckon you could put her in a men's second.
I do, and that's what we actually said that. We said that she could definitely play men's cricket. And so what about you, Kate? What's your kind of background to quick bowling?
So I was the product of being the youngest child pretty much, and I was older brother who played cricket and forced me to bowl at him in the garden because he needed a little bowler. Sister wicket kept, and I think I just wanted to run in and try and hit him as hard as I could because he never let me bat, and I just got really frustrated, and I just think naturally just picked it up and bowled. Well, say quick, I'm not a quick bowler, but this footage
if you I mean, you know, you've got a good action. I reckon if you could brace your front leg a tiny bit more, you get even more pace, actually.
You've done me a disservice here, Simon, because this was, I reckon, 4 years.
A few years ago, was it?
Yeah. So I would like to think I'm a lot fitter and a lot stronger now. And actually,
right.
I've changed my action since then. So I used to load up quite low, and it used to almost throw me back a little bit, whereas now I've kind of got a lot more fluidity in my action. It looks, well, I think it looks a lot better. It has to, because that's my action now, so I'm going to say that. But yeah, I think I'm probably the opposite to Al. Like, I love the fiery nature of being a fast bowler. I love the fact that you've got bouncers and Yorkers, and I know Al can bowl Yorkers, but yeah, I think there's just something.
Oh, Crossy, I would love to be able to hit somebody in the throat with a bouncer, but I've not got it in me.
I mean, you could.
Be a full toss.
Yeah, just beam them.
It's interesting actually listening to Isha on the commentary there. How much, you're relatively new to the media game. How much is Isha's success? How much does that inspire you? Or perhaps it doesn't. I don't know. Perhaps you want to follow your own paths.
It does with me 100%. Somebody asked me, in an ideal world, where do I see myself in the next 15 years? And I said another Isha Guha, because I think the way she's built herself up in her media career and turned herself into a brilliant presenter is credit to her, because her England career wasn't that long, and she was successful, but there are more successful people out there who haven't made it in the commentary world, who have tried, and I think that's her hard work and dedication and the hours she's put in. So watch this space.
You better hire Simon Mann then.
Yeah.
Simon Mann's, you've given Nisha a bit of help, haven't you?
A little bit, yeah. But she's done most of it herself, or nearly all of it herself. Yeah.
Well, go on, sell yourself though. I mean, you run a sort of media training operation.
I'm extremely expensive.
Yeah. Well, quite right. Charge.
I've only got a part-time job.
Alex has just bought a new flat, or moved into a new flat, so she's obviously loaded. So they're professional players now. You charge them the earth, mate.
Paul Morley says Isha and Ebony are both fantastic additions to the recent media pack. Yeah, they are. They're doing supremely well. How about you, Kate?
About Isha.
Well, or Ebony, Isha.
Yeah, I think they've just, like Al said, really, to echo what she said, they've almost been a voice for the women's game as well, which I think is probably the most pleasing thing for me, is that we've got people representing our game, and it's no secret that it's hard for women in sport to get not only recognised but taken seriously. And I think that's, again, probably a part reason why we do our podcast, is so that people can actually see the real us and see how much we do dedicate to our sport, and our knowledge is there. And I've just literally come from the TalkSport studio today and been working on the men's game, and like the feedback that we get from that is actually, people get surprised that we know what's going on in the game. And yeah, we might not have played as many test matches as some of the men, but the knowledge and the thirst for the game and the enjoyment for the game is there, and hopefully that comes across. And for me, that's what comes across with Ebbs. And
I mean, yeah, I think that's good that you think that. I mean, I've never played a test match. Simon's never played a test match. I don't think that occurs to us, really, does it, Simon? I mean, I don't think like that. Well, I think I've got something interesting to say. I'm going to say it.
Yeah. But also, I've said this to you before, and I've said this possibly in this forum, possibly on the podcast, that I'm a broadcaster, and when we're covering cricket, we're broadcasting. We're not playing cricket. We're broadcasting. So that's my area of expertise in a way. I've been doing it for 30 years. So people say, well, how can you talk about cricket because you haven't played at the top level? Well, I am talking about cricket, but I'm also broadcasting.
I just want to punch people who say that.
Yeah.
There are techniques involved in broadcasting. I mean, there's so many different aspects to that don't actually involve cricket per se. Although,
it's just, I mean, if I get that on Twitter, I just lose it.
What's
that? How many test matches have you played?
Yeah.
How long has Boris Johnson been Prime Minister before he was Prime Minister? Just fuck off. I've studied the game since I was 10. I think that's good enough, actually. So it's all about, I think, nobody ever knows that I played the game anymore. I mean, it's like, it doesn't matter. It's about whether you've got something to say or not. And obviously it takes a bit of time to establish that, but oh God. I mean,
and how you say it as well. It is. It's about how you present it. You mentioned like someone like Isha. I mean, she has a real presence on the camera, and to be calm as well in front of the cameras. I mean, television is people who make television look easy are actually performing at a very high level, because there is so much. People don't realize this. There's so much going on back out there in your ears, people, with 3 different people talking to you, or someone talking to you the whole time, which if you do it the first time, it's so incredibly off-putting.
I remember I went and did some like punditry on the World Cup back in, would have been 2015 maybe, and I was on Sky Sports and they said to me, do you want an earpiece? So I said, oh well, yeah, okay, I don't know, yeah, no, I'm not sure. And I had it in, and Isha had asked me a question, and she's obviously hearing everything I'm hearing, but then I was in the middle of answering the question and I heard someone say, oh Kate, can you just take a step to your right? And I just like stopped talking and looked around, and he's just waving at me going, you can't just stop talking, Kate, you're live on the television, but just because someone's in your ear. Yeah. And then after that I said, I'm never having an earpiece again, because it was just too much for me. I couldn't cope with it.
I just turned mine right down. I'm like, just have it as low as I can so I can sort of hear it, but I don't have to concentrate on it.
It is
actually
hard.
it is hard, but you get used to it, and you get used to filtering the important bits. And also, if you've got a good director, they'll pick the right moment to say something, and you can let most of it wash over you, and it's just the odd thing that you need to pick up on. I
wonder, Yoz, if it's time for some of our
we've got a question here already, actually. But this is Ian again, which I'm sure other people probably might voice this question too. But Ian says, did Kate learn much from her dad, who played professional football? Obviously not about cricket, but because he was a professional footballer, about the disciplines of being a professional athlete.
Yeah, I actually again, it's the blessing in disguise a little bit, but also can sometimes be a nightmare that you've had a dad that's played for professional sport, because he knows everything. And I know dads know everything anyway.
Yes, they do.
But he's always kind of had the right advice at the right time, which I've been really grateful for. And I remember when I signed my contract, I was obviously so excited that I was going to be a professional cricketer, and the first of our kind in the women's game. And just before I signed it, he said to me, he's like, Kate, this is going to be hard, it's not easy being a professional athlete. He said, if it was easy, everyone would be signing the contracts and everyone would be professional athletes, because, a lot of people love sport. So that was a bit of advice that really stuck with me. And the other thing that stuck with me was, he said that the highs are high and the lows are low. And he said, the sooner you work out how to kind of ground yourself and middle your way through your career, and not saying don't enjoy the highs and ignore the lows, but if you're up and down all the time, and I had a tour, just come back from New Zealand, and I've had that tour where I was up and down literally every game, but experience helps. But I've kind of found a way of just dealing with it a little bit better now. And that was, again, something that he said to me pretty much on the day that I signed my contract, and that stuck with me. So he's got bits of advice. He wasn't a cricketer, he was a footballer, obviously. And there's a lot of differences. Like, he played on a Tuesday and a Saturday every week. I'm playing 3 games in 7 weeks. And you put so much pressure on your performances because you want to do well for England.
He is disappointed in you though, isn't he? Because you ain't got any football skills.
Well, saying that, did you see me on Sky Sports the other day kicking a football? I think that's the only football I've ever kicked straight, and Sky Sports got it and thought I was Sarah Taylor, which is by the by. But yeah, my dad was proud that I was finally on Sky Sports News for football, not cricket.
Sarah Taylor on the Sussex coaching staff. That's exciting, isn't it? I mean, just before we go to the our members' questions, just tell us about, what can we do to help the women's game more? Because we've had all this sort of outburst, and the England players, you've sort of said haven't been that supportive, whether they have or not, I don't know. But I mean, what can we do more to help the game? Because I think it's massively important, and I'm probably boring everyone rigid, but 75% of the primary school teachers in this country are women. The more women we can get interested in cricket, the more they'll teach their kids of 10, 9, 8 to play cricket rather than something else in break or PE or whatever. So it's fundamental to the success of our sport. And, women have had a massive influence on cricket over the years anyway. So what can we do to kind of change people's attitudes and just help you, really?
I think there's from the side of like the school side of things, and primary school, secondary school, it shouldn't be seen as a boys' sport. It should be a unisex sport. And I think cricket should be played by girls and boys at school. I know when I played school, the boys played cricket and the girls played netball, and I was the outcast because I wanted to play cricket and everyone thought I was the weirdo. And I think the more schools can get that being, right, the girls are going to play cricket for 4 weeks and then the boys are going to play cricket for 4 weeks, or vice versa. I think that's where we start for the next generation of people. But for this generation of people, I'll let Crossy answer it.
I think the biggest thing for me is language. I think the way that the game's spoken about, and I don't mean when people, when we're playing for our men's team and they, oh, come on guys and girl, there's always that panic that there's a girl playing. I don't mean language like that. I just mean the ECB have started to do this. It's the way that they speak about the women's game. So it's the England men and the England women. It's not England are playing and England women. And we've seen the way that they've created the 100 as an equal playing field for, excuse the pun, for both the women and the men. Whereas you look at how Australia have done it, they had the Big Bash. So the BBL is the men's competition and the WBBL is the women's Big Bash. It's not the men's Big Bash and the women's Big Bash. So the fact that the 100 is the 100 and there's a women's team and a men's team, I think is a great start, because already you put in both teams on an equal footing. And I'm like, we're not going to talk about equal pay because we're not there yet. The women's game isn't there yet. But the fact that the statements that the ECB have made in terms of we're starting the competition, actually me and Alan are starting it with the Manchester Originals female team have got the first game. So we're kicking off history. The fact that there's equal prize money, I think these are the kind of things that like actions kind of speak louder than words now. And it's very easy to say that we support the women's game, but show us that you support it. And contracting 41 new female athletes in the middle of a global pandemic when the ECB was set to lose 360 million is a massive statement. And that's where we feel as athletes that we're supported by our governing body. And I think, unfortunately, for the women's game at the minute, you've not got all the nations supporting like the ECB are doing.
The Australians are pretty good, aren't they? I mean, apart from the women's and men's Big Bash distinction.
I would say they're ahead of us, actually. I think we're probably 5 years behind Australia in that regard. But then really you've got India kind of helping every now and then, but when it suits them and when it looks good for them, I'd say.
Like announcing there's a test match on International Women's Day and nobody knew anything about it.
Yeah, that was a bit rude, wasn't it? But yeah, I just think again, hopefully now you're going to have a generation of cricketers who have got female role models as well. So the visibility that we've got now on social media, on Sky, on BBC, on podcasts, on cricket clubs like this, just the fact that young girls are going to turn the TVs on and see Heather Knight or Danny Wyatt, whereas I was seeing Andrew Flintoff and Steve Harmison, that kind of is going to change the mold of what comes through in the next generations as well, hopefully.
Paul, we've got Paul here, Paul Williams. Paul, do you watch women's cricket?
I do, yeah. I really, really enjoy it. Yeah, follow it as much as I can, actually.
I put you on the spot there, didn't I? Sorry.
You had to say yeah, Paul.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. I do actually, yeah. And I do. I really do enjoy it. Actually, it's I follow all cricket, that said, but yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Have you got go on? You got far away with your.
I have, yeah, I have, and it might be slightly controversial, really, particularly for Kate, having read some of her views on it, actually. And it's regarding the length of the pitches. Actually.
Oh no! Don't. We don't want to get into it.
Well, I'm going to anyway, because this is an interesting one for me. Given that you already have smaller boundaries and the inner circle's already smaller, the ball has always been smaller. Why would you not want a smaller pitch, given that it would make particularly people like yourself, Kate, and Catherine Brunt, all sorts of the fast bowlers would have much greater advantages. It's something they're talking about for football as well, making the playing areas smaller. It seems in all other sports that the women, just because of their physical differences, have smaller javelins, smaller areas. It just seems to me an obvious thing, logical thing to do.
So what would the pitch length be reduced to under this proposal?
Well, I couldn't say 21 yards, 20 yards. That would have to be determined what an appropriate thing would be. But if you've got, say, women at the moment don't bowl faster than 75 miles an hour. Maybe they could push it to 80 miles an hour. Men are bowling 85, 90 miles an hour. So you would have to say, if the fastest that women were bowling is 75, 80 miles an hour, then at 22 yards, women are able to play a 75 mile an hour bowler fairly comfortably. I know it's relative, but to give fast bowlers that extra bit of advantage that a fast bowler would normally have, reduce the pitch length. For example, it also means that a good batter could take advantage of the extra pace, and it also means they don't have to run as far when you've got shorter boundaries, so you could get more twos.
I'll go first because I don't think it's a controversial view, but first of all, I'm pretty sure our ball is lighter, not smaller. So it's the same sized ball, but it's just a lighter version of it. And my biggest thing is that we bang on about playing on good pitches. That is what produces the best games that I've been involved in. If you put us on slow turny pitches, you get a slow, bad game. And so I think we're striving so much to play at the best grounds. So we're trying to play at the test venues. You know, we're trying to get away from playing at, for us, Liverpool and Blackpool and outgrounds and places like that, where it's deemed to be more of a intimate game because you've got the crowd closer. So there is no way on this earth that we are going to be able to play a game at Lords if there is stump holes in the middle of the pitch for a men's game. So that's the logically for me, that's the main reason that I think we shouldn't be doing this, because we want to play on the best pitches. If that is the case, then the females are going to have their own wicket that groundsmen are going to prepare that only the women can use, because there's going to be holes where the batters have pretty much got their footmarks. So that's fundamentally the biggest thing for me. And I think you've kind of touched on it yourself, but it's relative for us. So Ishmael bowls 75, 76 miles an hour. Perry bowls 75, 76 miles an hour. And it hurries our batters. It hurries Danny Wyatt. It hurries Tammy Beaumont. So it depends what you're trying to get out of it. If you want to see the ball flying through, then shorten the pitches. But if you want to see batters being challenged by the quickest bowlers in the game, then I think we've got that anyway. So that's why my view is that it shouldn't be changed. But the biggest one is actually physically getting the pitches to be able to do it, because otherwise we're going to be on the side of the square playing with a 30-yard boundary on one side and a 110-yard boundary on the other side.
I also think as well, like, what happens to our generation of cricketers that play on the normal size pitch now? Like, what are we just supposed to learn overnight how to bowl on shorter pitches? Like, that's going to take, it took me years to learn my trade and years to learn how to bowl on the length of wickets that we do. And to then suddenly go, right, we're going to be on smaller pitches because we want the speedometer to look better on the TV.
And then on that, you got girls going back playing men's cricket at weekend, playing for their clubs. And what do we do then? Do we then just suddenly go back to knowing how to bowl off 22 yards? So I think there's things that you can change before that. And I think that's a real extreme way of doing it. And I know it has been talked about for a while. And I know that a lot of batters have kind of opted for it more than the bowlers.
What other things could you change before that?
I think number one is on playing on better wickets. Playing when we go to the Aegeus Bowl, we don't want to be playing on a 5-day-old wicket that the boys have just played a 4-day game on, because that's what happens at the minute. So obviously our scores are going to be lower and the standard of cricket isn't going to be as good because we're not on fresh pitches. And I think groundsmen need to understand, to get the best spectacle, the best viewing of any sort of cricket, it has to be on good pitches, no matter if it's men's or women's.
I think you'll see a change actually in the next few years because of hybrid pitches. Lords have just put in 2 hybrid pitches, and they're going to use them for the 100, and they last, much better than, you can play on a hybrid pitch 3 or 4 T20 games in a row, and they last, much better. So hopefully, that development will help the pitches generally be better for both men's and women's games. Actually, I think that the mistake that we all make, and I've probably made it as well, and certainly anybody who is suggesting that the pitches should be shorter for women, are making the mistake of thinking we should be comparing it to the men's game and we want to see the same speed. Well, we don't actually. We shouldn't be, because it's all relative, isn't it? I mean, as you said, Kate, your best batters are struggling with Elise Perry and whoever else they're facing, and that's what you want to see, is a contest between the bat and the ball rather than between men and women. And their game is slower, therefore it's not as good. I mean, that's just crap. So I think that you're right. I think you're totally right. And as I say, I think actually pitches for one-day cricket especially will be gradually be better because of that hybrid issue.
Before we move on to Ian's question, just a very quick one from me. Ian Wigston's with us in a second. On the 100, just remind us what's going to happen. Where are you going to be playing, under what circumstances? So are they going to be double headers, or are you going to be playing on separate grounds in the area in which your team is based?
So they're, apart from the first game where the women are heading up the first game, they're playing the day before the men. They're all going to be double headers. So we're going to be playing. The women are going to be playing before the men. So it's going to be
on the same pitch.
On the same pitch, same day, like obviously the game before.
So you could, I mean, you'd assume from that we're going to get most
We're going to get fresh pitches, hopefully.
Yeah, pretty. But I think that's mostly because of COVID. I think the restrictions that might happen, we're not obviously sure yet, and whether there's going to be crowds or whatever. But I think the worst case scenario was that if we had to be in a bubble, then we needed to make sure we're at the same grounds more often. So that's why it got changed, because I think there was going to be a lot of outgrounds for us as female cricketers.
Hello,
you're going to have to come changed, aren't you? You're not going to get a dressing room.
Hello, it's Noughts here. Noughts from above. Hello, Ian, by the way. Can I just bring in a surprise guest?
Yes.
I'm going to bring them on screen. So they just alerted it. I think you'll like this. I think you'll like this. It's Jacob's 6-year-old daughter. She'd like to ask a question.
How lovely. Hi, Jacob.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. What's your name?
Isabel.
Hi, Isabel.
Hi, Isabel. Great to have you on.
Have we got a bit of stage fright? Do you want to ask a question?
Do you want to ask us a question? The girls a question.
Go
on.
Go on. Don't be
stage is
How
yours.
long did it take to learn cricket?
Gosh,
What a
well,
question.
it takes a very long time.
A lifetime.
Yeah. So, I've been playing for 15 years and I'm still learning now.
That's a long time.
What about you, Kate? When were you good? When did you find out that you were good?
I'm hoping in the next 3 years or so. But yeah.
How old do you think the girls are, Isabel?
How old do you think they are? Do you think they're?
How old do you think they are?
They're not as old as Daddy. Daddy's ancient. Don't upset them.
20.
Do you reckon about 21?
21.
Oh, that's a good
Oh.
answer, I think. That is.
Thanks. You
What about the
charmer,
girls? I
Isabel.
know Simon, Man, and I, but what about the girls? Yeah. And you've got another daughter there as well, have you?
Yes,
Thank
we
you.
got Rosanna here.
Wow, brilliant.
Isabel,
There's
do you
two.
play cricket?
You're going to play
I've
cricket, aren't
been
you?
practicing.
You're practicing catching, aren't you? And hopefully all
I've been
stars when
also practicing with Phil.
practicing with Phil, yeah, your coach, yeah. So hopefully we'll be signing you up for all stars.
Brilliant.
Brilliant. Good luck.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to see
Well
you.
done.
Better go to bed now. 5 to 8. Ian. Good
Simon,
evening,
hi.
Ian.
Kate, Alex, great to have you with us. And just to follow up my question about the podcast, I think the power of that social media one was the authenticity of the voices in both cases. So really enjoyed it from that point of view. This is actually a question from Liz Cross, who I don't think is any relation. Liz is a PE teacher who's part of the club, but she's busy with a school engagement tonight. She's really interested in what your plans are after cricket, which I know you've started to touch on, but also more to the point, what support is put in place for that transition, if any?
So we're supported a lot more by the PCA now. Obviously, we were new to that association 7 or 8 years ago. So a lot of work's been done there for them to support us. You know, we get a bit of funding each year to go on courses or do what we need to do. I've started a master's this year, stupidly, because my dissertation year next year is going to be when we've got a T20 World Cup, a one-day World Cup, an Ashes and a Commonwealth. So I'm an idiot. But
Is that psychology?
No, I studied psychology at uni, but I've gone into sports directorship with this one.
Wow.
And
She thought it was dictatorship. So she's
I
going.
thought I was doing a course in sports dictatorship. But my view is, I think because, again, I keep speaking about our generation of cricketers, but there's a lot of things that I sit there and I go, why on earth is this happening? Why are we playing on 4-day-old pitches? Why do we wear men's kit? Why is this? So I've got a lot of whys, and I thought the best way for me to change women's cricket is to directly change it and to get involved at the highest level of whatever club I do eventually take over. That's the plan. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. Al, what are you doing?
Great question. I'm still sort of
He's moving
learning.
house.
Yeah. I've had the most stressful day moving house, and I haven't even moved yet. Yeah, I think for me, it's sort of to play cricket for as long as I can. And I've always said I'll stop playing cricket as soon as I stop enjoying it. And I've fallen back in love with the game in the last 8 months. And I'm like a kid again. Like, I just want to learn and I want to train. And I feel like I'm just getting better and better. And it's amazing. But trying to commentate on the side, and I want to commentate for a living. I know that doesn't last forever. So after that, marry somebody really rich. I don't know.
Oh, commentate can last forever.
It
do well
can,
at it.
but I know that every year I'm out of the game. I need to sort of get better at commentary because I'm a year less relevant, aren't I? So just get good at commentary and sort of take it day by day.
Do you think you've learned from commentating and you can put that into playing?
Yeah, 100%. I think I watched the game in more detail than I ever have before, and certain bowlers and how people go about their trade. And I think it's really helped me have a good balance of cricket for an athlete and professionally, and cricket for work. And I think it's just helped in so many ways.
I think what it's done, because I've obviously me and Al both do a bit of commentary, but I think what it's done for me is kind of affirmed the fact that I actually have cricket knowledge, because I think sometimes you second guess yourself when you're playing and you doubt yourself quite a lot as a player, and anyone that tells you that they don't doubt yourself is lying, I think. But when we're commentating, we're watching from a bird's eye view, and you're thinking as a captain, and then I think to myself, well, why am I not doing this when I'm on the pitch? So I think it's kind of given me that different perspective of how to view the game, which, like Al said, it's made me think more about it in depth.
Have you had, actually, the thought struck me, we talked about this earlier. Have you had any training? Are you given training before you go on, or are you just expected, because you're, professional players, you're expected to just speak and it all supposed to come out perfectly?
I wasn't. For my first game was a T20 Blast game, and I was with Charles Dagnall, thankfully, who was obviously, he's a breath of fresh air anyway. But pretty much before I went on air, he said, don't talk when I talk, and tell us what we can't see, basically. And that was all I got. And then I just kind of fumbled my way through that. We have had a bit of training since. We did some work in lockdown, actually. We got on some Zoom calls and made the most of our time. But I think if you want to get training, then you kind of look into that yourself. It's not a given that just because you play cricket, you get the training.
You know what Simon always says, actually, one of the things he does say, which is quite good, is it's good to broadcast with a smile. And both of you do, I think. You can hear it in your podcast that you are kind of, you can see the funny side, even, or the lighter side, even in a serious moment, sort of thing. And that just makes it much more easy to listen to, Simon, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, you can hear Ebony's smile, for example.
Yeah.
When she broadcasts, I always point people in her direction. You can hear her smile, and it's a really alluring thing as a
Simon Mann is the broadcasting sage, aren't you?
Let's hear from. What about you, Kate, on training? Alex, on training. Sorry.
I stumbled across my first ever game and didn't get any training, and it's all because Isha couldn't make it, so she had an emergency. So somebody said, "Do you fancy it?" I was like, "Yeah." And I was with Henry Moran from the BBC.
Mm-hmm.
And Josh Butler hit a 6, and he said, "What do you think of that, Al?" And I just went. And he went, "Al, you're on the radio, you need to talk." And I was like, "Oh yeah, of course." So that was, I sort of got thrown in the deep end and didn't know what the hell I was doing.
It often happens. Anyway, Robin's here. Robin,
we can see you for once.
Yeah.
At last.
Yes.
Even more ugly and surprising.
You managed to crack the technology.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to ask the ladies, bearing in mind the prominence formerly of Charlotte Edwards in cricket for England, and her role at Hampshire now, and also Sarah Taylor at Sussex. I just wondered if the ladies had got plans in the long term to do any coaching themselves, whether it's to their own former teams or new students joining the game who have come up through the youth system, or with you know, a men's side who have developed?
I think personally, I really don't have the patience to coach, and I sort of always been able to do stuff and to explain to somebody, well, this is how you just do it. I don't think is good enough for a cricket coach either. So for me to bowl spin, I can't explain what I do, so therefore I'd be a crap coach. And I think it's something that you have to be extremely patient with, and you have to have really good communication skills, and I don't have either, so it's not for me.
I think there's without opening up a can of worms, there's also the element of family life for us, that I think if you're a male sports star, you can start a family without taking time away from the game, whereas I think for us, obviously there's definitely 9 months out, you know, you can't, especially with a cricket ball flying around, you've got to be quite safe with that. So I think for me, when I finish my cricket career, that's going to come first and foremost, is being able to start a family. And then, yeah, after that, I just don't know. I don't think I never say never, but at the minute, it wouldn't be one of my priorities, I don't think.
Do you think that Sarah, do you happen to know whether Sarah Taylor has a family, a young family or anything like that?
No, she doesn't at the minute.
Right.
And neither does Charlotte. So yeah, I don't know. It'd be an interesting one for them. And yeah, I guess we kind
I
of
read an article which said that Adam Gilchrist thought she was the best wicketkeeper he's ever seen.
I
Yeah, she's been fantastic, and I think the way that Sussex have utilised her and said, well, if she's been the best in the world, male or female, then why not come and teach our academy and teach our wicket keepers, our blokes, and
definitely
and utilise her. And I think it's a real stepping stone to show that, you know, just because she's female, she is good enough to coach a male as well.
Actually, I think broadcasting is a sort of coaching, you know. So, Alex, you could still be a coach and be a broadcaster at the same time. And Kate, you were just picking up on one thing you said about your ambition to sort of be directing a team or running a team, and you make certain changes. What changes to the women's game? I think you said.
Yeah.
What would they be?
I guess it depends where a team or the women's game is at that point. You know, if that's in 10 years' time, it's going to look very different to where we are now. I think some of my biggest things that I talk about is our opportunity. Again, this isn't anything to do with equal pay or anything like that. This is just the opportunity for girls to play cricket as much as guys do. And you look at a 17-year-old lad in the Lancashire Academy now, he will be playing cricket pretty much every day the coming summer. A girl will not get the same opportunity. She won't play as much cricket. And I think our ratio of playing to training is drastically wrong at the minute. I think we train far too much. We've just been on this tour over to New Zealand. We were there for 7 weeks. We followed the Australian men around. They don't train. You know, on a day off, they're playing golf. We're in the nets. I'm bowling in between games, and
Yeah, I think you're right there.
And I think there's so much, we put too much pressure on ourselves in a training environment that then we put even more pressure on ourselves in a game environment. So I think those ratios are really wrong at the minute. And like, again, opening up a can of worms, but the fact that we wear men's kit, it just blows my mind that we're in 2021. We're sponsored by New Balance, who are a clothing apparel company, and we're wearing men's kit.
So what would be better then?
Wearing women's kit. Women's fit clothing, you know, make the game appealing. You've got girls running around in baggy clothing, and it just, to me, it doesn't look appealing. And it's not the sexiest.
So this is like lycra cricket kit, basically.
No, I'm not talking about making it like unprofessional or anything like that. But
well, that isn't unprofessional though. I mean, you know, that's what athletes run in, isn't it?
So I mean,
female.
Think about the England women's football team. Nike tailor their kit to their bodies. They make it look more appealing. I think we are wearing kit that just you know, I just don't think it looks all that great.
Not very flattering.
Yeah, my playing t-shirt hangs off my arms because it's long sleeve and goes below my knees because I would have to wear a small men's, extra small men's, and I'm not. If I was a man, I'd probably be a dwarf. Like, you know, I'm tiny. You know, I'm a tiny little human, and I don't think I should be wearing men's kit, men's clothes.
I just think, would Ben Stokes turn up to play a test match in a women's fit top? It just wouldn't happen. So why does it happen for us? And it's this opportunity that I keep talking about. There's certain people have got their own version of what women's sport is, and I think it's moved on very quickly in the last 10 years or so. And I just think there's just little things like that that could make the game so much more appealing for a young girl.
Have you talked about that? I mean, can you go to New Balance and talk to them about it then? I mean,
yeah,
I think, you know, you just got to go out there and get it done, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that's where I think as a team, we're a bit braver now in how we use our voices. I think, you know, Al's a good example of that on social media. She voices her opinion. And I think in the past, we've been a bit grateful and we've been, oh, it's great we're getting paid by the ECB to do this, which it is, don't get me wrong, but equally there's certain basic human rights that you have as a female within a company, and some of those aren't sometimes being met. So I think the more that we stand up for ourselves and kind of get away from that, oh, it's great we're being paid now and it's great we've got these opportunities, I think a lot of us are standing up for ourselves a little bit more, which I think is going to change the game.
Right. Hi, Will. Sorry,
Thanks,
we had
Simon.
you hanging on there.
No. It's all good to hear. I thought you just noticed my cricket-dominated background behind me. I've changed locations from last week, and I've got Ben Stokes and Josh Butler behind me.
Good man.
I don't know if you can see that. But,
Yeah, we can.
Next week you'll have Alex Hartley and Kate Cross as well.
Hey, now that's a good point. Actually, I need to get you to sign something afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is cool. My question to you, girls, is it's kind of a question, kind of more. Well, it's kind of more of a statement rather than a question. But anyway, I'll see what you guys think about it. You, from my understanding and from what I watch, you don't play quite a lot of test matches, apart from the only test matches, obviously, in the women's Ashes against Australia. Now, I just wanted to understand really what your kind of views on it are, and whether what you should do, what the ECB or maybe yourselves could maybe do it maybe going forward. Maybe, I don't know, you suggest something, you know, to the ECB or something when it comes to like scheduling more test matches, because I think, you know, it's great to have, you know, the branding of, you know, the T20s and the ODIs that you and the ladies play. But I think, you know, for cricket lovers like me and for many people on this call tonight who are, you know, quite big Test cricket fans, it would be quite good to kind of see more women play Test cricket. So I'm just wondering what your view is on the state of that question.
I think personally, and I probably speak for me and Crossy, we both would love to play more Test match cricket, and I think why we don't is because it costs cricket boards for women to play Test cricket. It doesn't bring in the revenue, and I think that's the issue. As players, we always want to play more cricket. We want to play Test match cricket because it's challenging. You know, it challenges your skills more. It's something we want to do, and you know, we have said that in the past. It's not up to us, unfortunately.
I also think it's not even just Test cricket. I think we should be playing more 2-day and 3-day cricket at domestic level now. I think that's where young girls and, well, this is where young boys learn the skill as well, but it's learning to do your skill consistently for long periods of time, which kind of isn't really relevant in our game sometimes, just by the nature that we play more 1-day and T20 cricket. But I think if I'm right in saying in the past that we didn't play Test cricket because of we weren't professional, so women had to take time off their jobs, so you couldn't then go on a 9-week tour because you're losing out on 9 weeks wages there. So if I'm right in saying that, I think that was one of the scheduling things that, you know, the tours were quicker because you then got the short format in.
I think with the way of how, because I think I may have got this comment horribly wrong or statement wrong, but I think the way of how you brought kind of women's cricket into it was, I think, around the whole kind of Charlotte era, kind of, you know, because obviously she was a very successful, obviously women's captain by then, and I think that, you know, as you say, Kate, you know, if, you know, it probably is down to kind of money and all that, but I just think, you know, for like, I just feel like, you know, if you want to get more people and more kind of like girls engaged in the game, you know, you probably need to kind of back off the more less of the, you know, the T20 and the ODI side of it, then we can kind of advertise, you know, the longer format of the game.
I think the excitement factor comes from the shorter format of the game. I think that's I mean, the cricket stalwarts know that Test cricket is the purest form of the game, and a 5-day game can still go down to the last ball of the last session, and it's incredible. And I'm one of those people. I'm a massive Test match fan. But I think for the standard of cricket, I think we need to play longer formats of it. So yeah, I think we do need to play. We just need to play more of it, and maybe when I'm director of England, I'll get more 2-day games in.
That sounds great. And actually, I think it will improve. One thing I've often noticed about women's cricket is at county level is the standard of batting. The first sort of 4 players or 5 players are okay, good, quite good, and then it drops off, and sort of 6, 7, 8 are not great, and 9, 10, 11 are terrible. And it would, if you played longer format, those lower order players would get more time to bat, and I think the general standard of batting would therefore improve.
Yeah, I think it's a win-win, isn't it? If we play Test cricket, your skills have to be repeatable as a bowler and as a batter, and it's not going to make us lesser of a cricketer because we play the long format. I think it's only going to help.
Becky Chantry says the men's team seem to spend 90% of their downtime on their playing FIFA and COD. How do you spend your downtime?
Gosh,
Call of
I
Duty.
don't even,
Sorry for those non-gamers on our audience. Call of Duty.
I don't even know what I used to do in downtime anymore. It seems like my downtime at cricket was a long time ago. How have you spent yours in New Zealand?
Well, we've been allowed out, so everyone's gone crazy and gone out to restaurants and been able to do normal life again, which was good. But I think the boys spend a lot of time on FIFA and stuff because they're still in a quarantine bubble and they can't go anywhere. And that's the impression that I get. I know that I can't stereotype and say that boys naturally play more gaming and stuff, but
they probably do.
We've got some gamers though. Like
you're allowed to stereotype, that is still permitted.
I mean, Kirsty Gordon's got an Xbox, hasn't she? And Sophie plays FIFA, and a few people did take Xboxes for the quarantine, so there was a bit of gaming. But when you've got normal life, you just kind of I try and stay out of my hotel room as much as possible because you're in hotels so much. So for me, it's trying to get out and do things, and you want to try and see the country that you're in as well. And if that's permitted, New Zealand, Australia, South Africa, you're allowed to do things like that. Maybe Bangladesh, your India, are a bit more restricted. I'm talking outside of COVID, obviously. But yeah, you want to try and get as much of the culture as possible because it's such a great opportunity to be able to travel the world doing the sport that you love.
Yeah.
What was
definitely?
Sorry, Alex, go ahead.
No, I just think from me now, having been in that England setup and now being a regional cricketer and having a different outlook, my downtime will be very much spent having a glass of wine, which I wish I'd have done when I was an England cricketer, to have a better balance. And I think it's really important to do the things you enjoy, which I didn't necessarily do when I played for England. And for me, that is having a glass of wine on the weekend. So that this summer is one of my main priorities, is to make sure I get that balance right.
Listen, we're going to move on to the quiz in just a moment. But
I'm just going to recommend another podcast, which is called Press X to Continue, and it's a BBC one actually. And Brody, Stokes, and Archer were on it last week. It's all about gaming, and they actually talked about how gaming has been a massive help for them on tour this year, particularly because firstly, it's given them something to do in the evenings, and secondly, they've been able to connect with their mates back home and play games with them at the same time as talk to them, and it's been a really revelation, actually.
What was it like in New Zealand, Kate? Was it just like normal? I mean, it's hard to actually sit here and imagine what that was like anymore. It's a year ago since it was really here, or over a year ago. What was it? Did it just feel normal in New Zealand?
Yeah, it did actually. So we did our 2-week quarantine, which was, for some people that was hell on earth. For me, I was doing a university assignment, so I was quite busy. But you just pretty much, it was there was a few community cases that kind of occurred, but New Zealand was so quick to jump on them and lock the country down again that you kind of went in and out of some restrictions, but they were nowhere near as strict as what we have here in the UK. But yeah, I remember we went for a meal we got to Queenstown, and that was kind of our first, let loose thing. I went for a meal with a couple of girls, and it was even just being close to the likes of Sophie and Freya, who I've been teammates with throughout this whole pandemic, but we've still not been allowed within 2 meters of each other because of all the restrictions. Even when we were in the Derbyshire bubble, it was still socially distant. So, it's just, for me, like, human contact has been a big thing for me, and I've really missed hugging people. And like, when you greet people, it's that awkward, what do I do? Fist bump, elbow? What is it now? So just being able to hug my teammates was a really big thing for me. And I don't know, it sounds really trivial and really small, but I think, yeah, it was just not. And you honestly will get back to, you'll forget about this pretty quickly as soon as you can have those restrictions lifted. You kind of, as institutionalized as we've been, I think you do get used to it pretty quickly.
Must be a bit weird coming back here then.
Yeah.
Anyway. Now, I think, Alex, you've done a good thing. You know, we had Jack Leach on this show before, and near the end, he said, "Oh, I can't answer that question. I'm desperate for a piss," right? and he went and had a piss, which was fine, but he kept his earpods in his ears. So we got the full sound effects.
The mic is always on. There's a broadcasting lesson for you. The microphone is always on.
Yes, that's right. Noughts, look out for, I did ask Izzy Westbury if she wanted to join. If she does.
She doesn't. She doesn't.
I will say Izzy Westbury is in the house, but she's otherwise occupied.
Oh, right. Okay.
I will say one quick thing as the over voice.
Yeah.
While Kate's there in New Zealand, because you did talk about in your podcast, if you've got a minute for the quizzes, could you just tell the audience who hadn't heard it about the earthquake? Because it's fun.
Oh my God, yeah. So we woke up at 2:30 in the morning. It was probably about 2 weeks ago now. And I woke up and my room was shaking. Like, I'm talking, the room was swaying. And I've woken up in a bit of a daze and I thought, oh my God, someone next door is having a really, really good time of it. Like, go on. And then I've realized that, no, there's a bit more to it than that. The entire building's shaking. So yeah, we were in the middle of an earthquake. And I reckon it lasted about 45 seconds and then obviously stopped. But I panicked and never been in a proper earthquake before. And then didn't know what to do. All I remember thinking is get under a table. That was the first thing that I thought, that you get under a table or in a doorway or something. And then we got a tsunami warning on the back of that because it had been out at sea. And we were in Wellington, which is right on the coast. So we were in the middle of a tsunami warning. So it was a manic hour, but everything was absolutely fine in the end. No damage done and everyone was fine. No one was hurt. And we played the game the next day and no one really talked about it. It was a bit weird.
I got the standard going to bed text and like best mates do. And then 2 hours later, there's been an earthquake. I was like, hang on a minute, are you all right?
But my sister had been in the cathedral the morning of the Christchurch earthquake. So she was literally within hours of kind of being, well, worst, you know, you go to your worst case scenario. So I text my family group thinking, God, they're going to really panic because one of their other daughters has been in an earthquake in New Zealand. And we didn't hear from Jem for about 24 hours because all communication went down. So I sent this message saying, I'm absolutely fine. There's been an earthquake. And my sister replied saying, they were my famous last words. I thought, what sort of a message is that to send someone who's just, like, the earthquake had just happened? And it was a big one. It was like 7.4 on the Richter scale. So it was a big earthquake. But yeah, obviously we're all fine. Everyone was fine. So
I thought you were going to say then when you woke up in the middle of the night, you thought you were pissed or something. Because actually that did happen to a friend of mine. He was in Peru, in Lima, and he was up a sort of 4-story hotel block. And he woke up in the night and the place was shaking. And he thought, shit, I didn't think I'd had that much to drink. and he sort of went back to bed and looked down in the morning, and the whole of sort of the suburbs had all been flattened.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, no, thankfully it was the day before a game, so I'd not had a drink.
Well, that we know of.
As opposed to the day after. Right, it's time for the quiz, Simon, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Which is the last thing we do on the.
And then you're free to go
on the Virtual Cricket Club. Yeah, but this is a quiz about you. So it's how well do you know yourself? And who is Andrew Strauss, our 2021?
Oh yes, so I can actually show you the leaderboard. God. The leaderboard is here.
I'm nervous.
This is the leaderboard. So Strauss is top. There's a couple of 8.5 points. It's 10 questions.
Hannah's up there. So he was Ali's your hero, isn't he?
He was, yeah.
He's your hero, is he?
He was. I wouldn't call him a hero, but yeah. Growing up, he was sort of. Well, he bowled left arm spin, couldn't field, so I could really relate to that, you know.
So yeah, okay. So there's some quite good scores there anyway.
How do you get half a point?
Well, we're quite lenient or ruthless according to the answer.
Depends how well you're doing. We get quite ruthless if you get 7 out of 7 or something like that. You have to get the answer right.
We've had pairs of players before, and you can sort of confer, I suppose. It's not a competition between each of you.
No,
it's a combined score.
Yeah. Okay. So it's going to be 5 questions each. So you really are playing as a team here. And we had Jack Leach and Sophie Eccleston. They did pretty well before Christmas. We've had a 2020 competition and a 2021 competition. So
can I answer on behalf of Alex?
You can do if you think you know the answer.
If you need to.
Okay.
Yeah.
I might as well just leave because I don't know anything.
Right. Well, this is all about you. So
right. Okay.
Anyway, we'll see how we go. Right. Are we ready to play the music, Yoz? And the
Let's play the music. Right. So it's how well do you know yourself? If you get the answer right, you get this. Right. Specially bespoke, correct
Sounds like
button.
Austin Powers, doesn't it? Bit of something, yeah. From the
unfortunately, if you get it wrong, you get this.
Standard.
Right. I don't know how easy or difficult these questions are, but question number 1 goes to Kate. Everyone remembers their first test wicket, Kate, but who was your second test victim?
I don't even know who you played again. Oh, it must have been
Australia.
Australia.
You idiot.
Must have been Australia.
Must have been Australia. I think my first one was Blackwell. I'm going to say my second one was... Oh, no, it was Blackwell. Jess Cameron was my first one. Blackwell was my second one. Alex Blackwell?
One out of one.
1 out of 1. Alex Blackwell. LBW for naught at Perth in 2014. You took 3 for 35 from 18 overs overall in that first innings in Test cricket. Right, Alex, your question. Question number 1. A memorable day for you. We'll take you back to that. What were your bowling figures in the 2017 World Cup final?
2 for 58.
Off how many overs? Oh.
Yeah, we've got that.
We'll give you that. Yeah, fair enough. 2.
And how many maidens? That was also.
How many overs and how many maidens?
10 overs. 2
doesn't matter.
We'll let you have it, but it was going to be exact bowling figures. So
sorry. Well, I think 2 for 58.
Yeah,
decent.
Fine. Okay, 2 out of 2.
The only reason I know that is because we did the lap of honour, and there was a girl on the other side of the field, and I'm signing autographs going round. She said, "Ha ha, you've just gone 58 at Lords." I was like, "Mate, I've got a medal round it."
I had a bit to drink, Al. Sorry, mate. I was just a bit jealous.
Right.
So 2 out of 2.
So
right.
2 out of 2. Very good. Right. Question 3. Second question for Kate. How many goals did your dad score for West Ham? Was it 58, 97, 109, or 121? 58, 97, 109, or 121?
We asked him this on our podcast as well, didn't we?
So I think the answer that I think I know is right, I think is going to be wrong because he had a different answer to us, didn't he? The stats that we'd done. But I'm going to go 97.
3 out of 3. Excellent. Right, well done.
Come on, Strauss, we're coming for you.
How many did my dad score at the local football ground?
Yeah. Right, question 4, Alex. Which city ground did you make your highest score for England?
That 3 not out.
Yeah.
That was at Derby.
You sure?
Yeah. Oh, was it Leicester?
It's fallen over. It was in Nagpur at the VCA Stadium. Quite a long way from Derby.
What did I get?
3 not out.
Oh, I definitely got a 3 at Derby as well because I nearly hit a boundary against India and I nearly celebrated.
Okay, I'm going to check that.
Simon Mann, the statistician amongst us.
I think
the thing is, it's so Is 3 not out as a 3 not out is a better score than 3? Were you out in that game at Derby?
No, I only ever got out in international cricket once.
We're talking T20s and one days though.
Yeah, I don't think I batted in T20s.
Right, let's have a look. Well, I'm going to check that. I'm going to check that because
I'm right.
How do you keep an idiot in suspense?
I'll
tell you tomorrow.
Someone's put it up for you there in the chat.
Have they? What does it say?
Well, I've got three not out at Nagpur in 6th of April 2018.
Come on, I definitely got 3 not out at Derby as well. Only got 3 not out once. Maybe it was 2 not out then.
Yeah, you've had a few 2 not outs.
Let's have a look.
You looking it up, are you?
I am, yeah. I'm on your page at the moment.
It was, yeah, Jared India.
And it's absolutely it is there, Alex. 3 not out, India, Nagpur, 6th of April 2018.
Al, if you'd have conferred with me on that, I would have said Nagpur.
What?
It's too late now. You got it wrong. 3 out of 4. Hard luck.
Liability, you Al.
This quiz is flawed.
Well, you're gonna have to take it up with the Cricket Info statisticians, Alex, because there is definitely there 3 not out in Nagpur.
Oh well, you know, you win some, you lose some.
Indeed. Right, where are we then?
Question 3 for Kate.
Right, we're a question. Yeah, question 3 for Kate. Okay, Kate, you're a bowler, of course, but what's your highest ODI batting score?
4.
Hmm?
4. 7. I don't know. I don't bat that much.
Okay, it's 8 not out against Australia at Canterbury in July 2019.
I was robbed of
If you'd
100.
asked me about that, I'd have known.
I was robbed of 100 that day. We were bowled out for 70 yards. Laura Marsh left me stranded on 8 not out.
Oh, so look, there we go. Richard, 1 not out at Derby versus India. It was nearly a boundary, though. I remember that.
You were robbed.
Yeah.
Right, so where are we? With 3 out of 5, aren't we?
3 out of 5, yeah.
Right, okay.
Come on,
Right, here we go then, Alex. Your first ODI victim was Stephanie Taylor, but who was your second ODI victim?
Do you think it was Dottin, Crossy?
I don't know. This was you did really well on this tour, didn't you?
You got the right country.
It was the right country, and it was the same match.
Yeah, I think I got
How
4.
you got it out?
I got 4 for, and I think I'm gonna. Oh, this is it. I'm gonna go Deandra Dottin. Oh.
It was Brittany Cooper.
Oh, stinker.
I was going to say to you, Minnie, to try and give you a clue. But...
Right, so 3 out of 6.
Okay,
Over to
3
you, Els.
out of 6. Okay, Kate, question 4 for you. Who was younger when they made their ODI debut out of you two?
All right. Well, I was 22. How old were you?
You're not allowed to ask her that, really, but
Oh.
I suppose you can. Yeah, go on then. Okay, get the answer right. Go on.
Yeah, they can confer.
You can confer on this.
I made
Who
my
was the
debut.
younger person when you made your ODI debut?
I made mine in 2016. So what's that make me?
I don't know. You should know.
So it's 20. I'm 27 now.
Oh my God, Al. How old were you when you made a debut? Why do you not know that?
I don't know. No idea.
Work it out.
What's my age now? Minus.
What year were you born? 94, 93?
93.
And you made your debut in 2016?
Yeah.
So you were 23. Is
that right? That math's right.
I'm going to go me then.
You got there. It was actually, Alex, you were actually 22 years, 9 months, nearly 23, and Kate was 22 years and 1 month.
That was painful.
So well done, you got that.
I had to watch that.
4 out of 7. Is it 5 out of 7?
6 out of 7, I thought.
Oh.
I think it's 4 out of 7.
4 out of 7. Right. This is the question 8. You've both played, for Alex, you've both played 28 one-dayers for England. Who has the better economy rate?
I think mine's about 3 something.
I think.
Or maybe.
I think mine's similar. and there's not going to be much in it, or they wouldn't have asked.
No.
Do you know
I
what,
think it's
Rossi?
4.
I'm going to back myself.
I'm backing myself.
So, okay, because we both back ourselves.
Let's toss a coin.
Who shouts the loudest? Don't toss a coin.
Tails is me, heads is you. Heads, it's you.
Hey.
Lucky sods.
Right.
What's the difference?
That's 5 out of 8.
It's,
Right, last 2 questions.
The
Simon
difference
Ross.
is it's very tight. Alex is 4.1 and Kate is 4.26. Right, last 2 questions. You have 5 out of 8. And so this is question number 9. Who has more Instagram followers? You or Alex?
Alex.
Sure.
Yep, 100% sure.
And what are the numbers?
Al's something like 54,000. I'm 49,000, I think.
Wow. Yeah.
Very good.
That's probably your most accurate answer of the evening.
That's a
They
sad
look at it all the
reflection
bloody
on
time.
society.
Oh dear.
Right, 6 out of 9. Well done. Well done. Well done. Right. Last question. This is to you, Alex. What's the worst place you have ever slept in after a night out?
I know this.
I know this. It's a dustbin.
Okay, come on then. Tell us the story.
So I used to, when I was trying to be a professional cricketer and trying to play for England, I moved in with Tammy Beaumont, who lived in Loughborough, because when you're an England cricketer, you train at Loughborough Monday to Thursday. So I moved in with Tammy. I also signed up to go to Loughborough University / college for the year. So I was sort of a fresher at the same time. So wasn't working that hard at cricket. And I obviously went on a night out and took my keys. And Tammy had gone away with cricket, and I'd lost my key on the night out. And her Kia Sportage was on the drive. And I thought, well, if I sleep under there, at least it'll be dry because it's raining. But it was freezing and the wind was going underneath the car. So I decided to get in the recycling bin to shelter from the rain and the breeze. I fell asleep, slept there for I don't know how long, ended up running to my friend's house, getting there, climbing through her window to get in her house, and then found my key in my pocket. So could have just stayed in my bed the whole time.
Shambles.
Yeah. So then she used to tell me then, so you've got to tie your keys to your shoes so you don't lose your keys, because I lost so many keys. So I used to take the shoelaces out, put my key in the shoelace, tie it back up.
Were you the kind of little girl who had to have her gloves tied together and things?
Yeah,
like
but then
in a
you're trying to
string
get
and
in the door with your foot, and you're like this, trying to unlock the front door with your foot after a night out and after a few drinks. The amount of times Tammy Beaumont found my shoes in the front door, she probably lost count.
Did you used to leave the front door open as well? Like my kids at their universities. I mean, my son, they left the front door open in Hull, and surprise, and someone came in and nicked all their laptops.
That happened to my brother as well. I'd like to think I've got more. I don't know what I've got more brains than that, but clearly not.
Well, they say there, Yoz, is it like father, like son?
Yeah, thanks, mate. Yeah. I used to have to climb in a lot. I climbed in a lot of windows in my time. Keeps you fit though. It's quite fun, I think. Right. So anyway, basically, you have got 7 out of 10, which is middle of the road. Could have been better. The conferring was ordinary. In fact, non-existent.
That's because we're both competitive, so we're just like in there.
Yeah, we think we know. We think we know best.
I'm still really annoyed that my one out was at Derby and not Nagpur. I thought got my 3 not out. Sorry.
You should have. I had a very kind of quite a sort of romantic essence. If you'd said Nagpur, my best innings was in Nagpur, and you said Derby.
Shows where we play our cricket, though.
Yeah, my best ever innings was actually in India, but we got a 48-run partnership, and I got none not out.
Who were you batting with?
Nat Siva. She left me stranded at the other end.
Stranded on naught not out. You were robbed of a potential maiden 100. Well, listen, that was. I mean, we're done. I think that's so nice to have you. Everybody, please subscribe to the No Balls podcast, because I think it's it's really soothing actually, and just I think it's quite therapeutic. Hopefully, do you find it therapeutic to do?
We find it really helps our mental health to sort of get everything out there.
Yeah, it's like counselling for us, isn't it? And we genuinely, what you see is what you get with the podcast. Like that is me and Alex when we're together. We might swear a little bit more and talk about things that we maybe can't talk about on a podcast in real life, but genuinely what you get on the podcast is our friendship, isn't it? And that's what we're probably most proud of, is that we've managed to get that across as best we can. And we've always been honest about our mental health and the kind of challenges of elite sport, because it's just not, like Al said, it's not shown that much, especially in the female side of the game. So yeah, we're proud of it, aren't we? We enjoy doing it. We hate editing it, but now Richard does that for us, so it's fine.
God, lucky things. Simon, how's your mental health doing a podcast with me? Excellent, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've aged a bit, haven't you?
Well, sadly, because I'm quite old. I think one of the great things about doing a podcast actually is that you can do what you want. I think that's the best. I mean, there's lots of people in broadcasting who like say you can't say this, you can't do that, you know, or you'll have to fit into a particular mold in a broadcast. But with a podcast, you have that great freedom to talk about what you want and explore the subjects you want. That's what I think is good about it, anyway.
So before we go, we let you go. Anything else you want to? Any messages you want to get out there, or people you want to slag off? Any tweets you want us to post for you?
We're not going to play cricket on shorter pitches anytime soon.
Okay, good.
Oh, Paul, I've just read what Paul put in the chat there, and I think that kind of echoes what a lot of people think that they know about the women's game, but actually when you get to know what goes on and kind of more the intricacies of it, is a bit different to the men. But thanks for listening to us, I guess. And yeah, if you want to listen to our podcast, it comes out most Fridays. Except we're on holiday at the minute, out of office.
We better nip in, Simon, then. We better do one, don't we?
And that's the other thing as well. Keep going. I mean, actually longevity is a really important thing, because what people do, they say, oh, we're going to start a podcast, and they do it for a bit, and then they sort of think, oh, I'm a bit fed up with this. Keep going. I think is the.
We're competitive and forever checking the charts, and you guys are all you're just above us, and it really annoys me.
Just.
If you guys,
have you looked at the all-time best sellers thing?
If you guys download ours instead and not theirs, that'll do us a favour.
Yeah, even if you don't listen to it, just download it.
I don't care who's top.
It's pathetic, isn't it? I mean, you're right. We're all sort of naturally competitive. I'm going, how the fuck have they got up there? You know.
Just enjoy doing it.
Yes.
Simon texted me going, well, how many listeners do you get? Because we get thousands. I'm like, well, we get thousands.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Great, it's been fantastic.
Fantastic. Well done, both of you. Fantastic careers. Lots to look forward to. I would say just one thing, and that is when you go into broadcasting, it's really much harder than being a player, because there's no benchmark. You know, you've got your runs and wickets when you're a cricketer. As soon as you're in the media, there's one person says they like you and somebody else says they don't, and there's no real kind of yardstick. So that I think is the hardest thing to deal with. And just ask loads of people what they think. You know, I mean, try and get feedback is what I mean, really, because it's always really valuable, and also it boosts your ego if the feedback is good.
It's good.
And makes you feel very sad if it's not. But then you think, well, it's their loss rather than mine.
Yeah, fair.
Their fault. Be confident, be yourselves. Hey, Simon.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us, guys.
Well done,
Thank
girls.
you very much. Good night.
Fantastic. Good night. See you later.
England have an early one. It is Kate Cross.